start?
4 o'clock.
Okay.
Let's get started then. July 12th, 2021, 4 p.m. I will call to order the Bucyrus City Property Maintenance Appeals Board. Roll call, please.
Mr. Stuckert?
Here.
Mr. Farmer?
Here.
Mr. Boers?
Here.
Mr. Schiffer?
Here.
And Mr. Pfeiffer?
Is absent. Okay. Well, first order of business is reorganization of the Property Maintenance Appeals Board for 2021. I will open the floor to nominations for the chairman for 2021.
Well, I move we keep the one we got, since you're doing such a good job.
I'll second it.
Okay, there's a nomination for myself, Mr. Stewart. Any other nominations?
Well, that was quick.
Do I have a motion to close the nominations for chairman?
So moved.
Second?
Second it.
Mr. Moore, second.
Motion carried?
Well,
It was like
a motion is carried, but we have to have a roll call vote.
roll call, okay. Well, Mr. Stuckert?
I'll abstain.
Abstained, yeah. Mr. Boers?
Here.
Mr. Farmer?
Yes.
Mr. Schiffer?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, well, I guess thank you, guys.
You lucked out again.
More welcome.
Okay, so now I will open the floor for nominations for a chairman pro tem for 2021.
How about Mr. Boers?
Yeah, here we go. Do I have to take it?
Yep. I did. If I can do it, you can do it.
Decline, I guess.
That's all right. You'll be here all the time anyhow, so.
Well, maybe.
Mike, I was gonna put you down.
Okay, nomination for Mr. Boers for Chairman Pro Tem for 2021 by Mr. Farmer, seconded by Mr. Schiffer. All in favor? Let's see, wait a minute, now I got to close.
Yeah, it was like close
Motion to
nominations.
close the nominations for Chairman Pro Tem.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
Thanks, boys.
Motion closed by Mr. Farmer and seconded by Mr. Schiffer.
You haven't made it yet.
And,
Not hope not. You're gonna vote no.
okay.
I'm gonna vote no.
Roll call vote, please.
All right, Mr. Stuckert?
Yes.
Abstained. Mr. Farmer?
Yes.
Mr. Schiffer?
Yes.
All right.
What about me?
I was voting
like-
yes
Don't
for,
matter.
Yes, for him, yeah, that's,
majority.
yep,
not abstaining for that one.
yeah.
Okay, all right. And Mr. Boers, you didn't ask him. You have to ask him as well.
I'll get sick.
Okay. All right, so we have
Oh, and
let's see,
then,
motion, or
to
have
excuse.
votes passed for, then Mr. Boers for Chairman Pro Tem. Okay, can I get a motion to excuse Mr. Pfeiffer, please?
So moved.
Is that you, Floyd?
I don't know.
Who?
No. He did.
Who?
Mike.
I
Mike.
did.
Mr. Schiffer made the motion, second?
Why isn't he here?
Vacation.
I'll second it.
We could have railroaded him.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Okay. So I guess, Mr. Ratliff, would you swear in attendees who wish to speak before the board? Tell it is, or we missed, what did we miss?
Motion to approve the minutes from last
Minutes from the last meeting. Did everybody have a chance to read the minutes from the last meeting?
Back in August of 2019.
19. Just COVID had a lot to do with that we haven't had a meeting since then.
I did not get a chance to read them. I'm not sure I'd remember all this if I did read it. I think it was a year and a half ago.
I move we accept them.
Motion by Mr. Schiffer to accept the minutes of the August 27th, 2019 meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Bors. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, motion passed. All right. Now on to swearing in attendees who wish to speak before the board.
Thank you. Looks like also we have Mr. Grove. Mr. Grove, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Please proceed.
You make a good judge.
Okay, Mr. Grove, would you please enlighten us on what we're at here today?
It's my understanding we're here on two properties that are owned by Gary and Susan Harris, and the second property is owned by Susan Harris. The two properties that they appealed were 406 West Warren Street and 507 West Mary Street. I wrote notice of violations on both properties, basically for grass, weeds, trash, rubbish on the properties. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay. Seeing that we do not have the appellant present to challenge the issue, any comments from the rest of the board members?
Gary and Susan were advised that we were having the meeting today, right?
Yes, notice was sent.
Well, they didn't show up to defend it. That tells me something, I guess.
And I took liberty to drive by both properties.
Yeah, they look rough.
They're nasty. I can understand the one on Mary Street, I think is right across from Mr. Pfeiffer's place.
Yeah, he mentioned to the fact when I informed him about the meeting, he's like, I don't know what he's contesting to.
Yeah, and the one on Charles Street. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, there's a vehicle on the other side there, Bud, on Charles Street. Now, are you complaining about the vehicles too, or just the rubbish?
Which property are we talking about?
On Charles Street, I think it is.
No, it's Warren Street.
Warren Street, I'm sorry, Warren Street.
Okay, on Warren Street, was dealing with trash, rubbish, appliances are on the property. The whole driveway was literally filled with
Yeah,
partially disassembled appliances and different things, to basically where the whole driveway is just full of what I would classify as junk and trash and rubbish.
They do have, is there any junk cars on there? I think there is on the one on Mary Street. There's a couple junk pieces laying around there, I think.
The one on Mary Street was for grass, weeds, trash, rubbish. Let me take a look here. Basically the same thing, except with grass and weeds as well. Grass, weeds in excess of 6 inches in height, trash, rubbish on the property. We could review the pictures. I could show you the pictures, and that way, if you have any real more questions in detail, I guess, could answer them for you.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if we'd like to review the pictures.
Which property would you like to see first?
Oh, let's go on Warren Street if you got it up.
Warren Street? First picture basically identifies the property as 406 West Warren Street. This is just a little bit better view to show the entire small structure or house that's on the property. As you can see, you start to see a little bit that's in the driveway here. Here's a little bit better view of the driveway. It's just a variety of things. At one point, I had 3 properties in this area that people had complained about. In particular, actually about 2.5 weeks before I ended up receiving an actual complaint for the property, I walked across the street and talked with the father and the son who lives in the apartment next door. I basically indicated to them that I said I had not received an actual complaint yet on the property. I was writing several properties up in the area. I was kind of giving them a little bit of a heads-up notice, which I thought was above and beyond what I normally do. But I was trying to let them know that it was just a matter of time before there was an actual complaint on the property, and that I would be back to visit and do an inspection and write a notice of violation on the property as well. At that time, he basically told me, he said that he felt that he was doing a service to the city, that they go around town and pick up all this junk and scrap from around town, and basically, tear it down, cut it up, whatever they do, and basically sell it off as salvage. I basically told him, I said, well, basically it sounds to me like you're possibly running a salvage yard of some type. And he flat out denied that. And so I basically told him, I said, well, you have to understand, I says, this isn't acceptable under the property maintenance code. So we took our pictures and we issued our notice of violation for the various things that were on the property.
Now, this was the tenant or the owner that was selling?
This is the tenant. Both the properties you're going to see today are rental properties that are owned. This one is owned by Susan E. Harris. The other one on West Mary Street, 507, is owned by Gary and Susan Harris, according to the Crawford County records. Basically, I took a police officer with me because the first time when I actually just did a kind of a courtesy call on to let them know that I thought there'd be a notice or be a complaint on the property, that I was just trying to inform them. Felt a little bit threatened with some of the language and stuff that was used on me. The younger son kind of moved around kind of into my blind side, so I kind of just at that point kind of excused myself and said, listen, I said, there's nothing yet at this point, but I just wanted to make you aware of that. So when I did go back and do the actual inspection, when I wrote the notice of violation, I did take a police officer with me, Police Officer John Seif, at which time the father kind of basically jumped on both of us about what are you guys doing here? I said, well, we did receive that actual complaint, so now I'm here to take pictures to show if there are violations and issue a notice of violation on the property. He got a little bit out of hand with the officer, made a couple off-the-wall comments to him. So at that point, I did tell John I'd like to have him remain on scene until I finished taking pictures from both the front and the back of the properties to see if there were any other violations. When we went back to do our re-inspection that morning, Officer Seif was again assigned to me on the day shift, and this time he brought a second officer along with him because he indicated to me that both the father and the son could be a little bit of a problem. At that time, they both did appear to be somewhat courteous. The father did get out of sorts a little bit with the police officers again on the second inspection. Basically told us that it was none of our effing business what we were doing there, and I basically told him I was here to enforce the property maintenance code, so I did have to do my inspection. He said he'd slap up a fence, and I said, well, it'd probably be a good idea to check with the property owner first to see if they would allow you to put up a fence. And I said the second thing you would want to probably do is contact the zoning office to find out if any permits and things were required to put a fence up. At that point, Officer Seif kind of stayed with me. We went back and took additional pictures of the back of the property as well in the second inspection, and basically there had not been very much progress on the property. This one, I believe, they protested the notice. I think on the day that it was supposed to move forward to the law director step for court action was the day that we actually received a small paper printed up indicating they wanted to appeal the notices that were posted on both properties.
Who are we going after? We're going after, is it up to the owner of the property to tell the renter?
My notice of violations have to go against the property owner because
right.
they're listed as the official contact and ownership of the property through the Crawford County records. That's one of the, I don't know if you want to call it a problem, but that's where you kind of can run into a few problems. Number one, you don't know who you're dealing with when you go out and do the inspection, since you don't know who the occupant is. And then number two, you can have some off-the-wall incidents take place with those individuals.
Now, I take it where this lawnmower's at is the other property,
Yes,
belongs to the other people next door.
yes.
That'd be the 402 address, correct?
Yeah,
And that's the
That
situation
looks a
where
little junky though,
everything
too.
appears to be
in one place.
going from one property to a second property. And it's my understanding that the son to the gentleman who's actually renting the 406 is living in this property, and they both work together on dismantling and taking apart all these different items, and it appears to be spilling over to the second property.
But Mr. Harris does not own, or Mrs. Harris does not own the 402 property, just the 406 property.
Yes, Susan Harris is listed as strictly the owner for 406 West
406.
Warren, where Gary and Susan are listed for 507 West Mary.
So you don't know the owner of this property over here, where the father lives?
I was in the process of writing up the property when I felt that it was a possible spillover from the first property. And so rather than issue directly a notice of violation immediately, I kind of held up on it.
Now, since they're doing what they're doing here, do they need we'll say, a junkyard permit?
Landon's not here to ask that question at this point.
Since they,
It's not an area zoned for operating
right,
salvage yards.
yeah. That's what I'm trying to get at, for salvage yards.
And that's why I kind of asked that question when he told me what they were doing, and he flat out, very quickly denied that that's what they were doing.
Well, I mean, if they kept everything in the garage, it kept everything clean, I don't have a problem with it.
Right.
But that looks like heck.
Yeah.
I mean, that's uncalled for. Well, then again, you're saying the father lives in the,
The father is the one that lives at the 406 West
Okay.
Warren.
okay.
The son is the one who is actually supposedly renting the apartment, or one of the apartments in the house next door.
Okay. It still makes everything look,
Took a few pictures out back just to see if the debris and everything was pretty much a run around to the back. As you can see, there's a small area here. There were tires inside of this fenced-in type area. I'm not sure if there's another picture in that.
no, I see, yeah.
So there was other items being stored there. I did take some pictures behind the garage because it looked like it just a piled up of clutter as well. So those are the pictures from the first inspection. When I went back to do the re-inspect, this is when I was notified of the appeal. And I also received a phone call from Mr. Harris. And I believe that when I called him back, he indicated that he had contacted your office, Rob. And at that point, I'd had no contact with him until that point. So we went ahead, I had gone ahead and done the second inspection, or the re-inspect.
So the complaint is based on health and safety issues, is that?
Junk, rubbish, trash on the property, grass, weeds, things of those nature are what I am there to enforce. When I receive a complaint, what I do is I follow up that complaint, take pictures to see if there are actual violations. If there are violations, then I issue a notice for the property.
Is this the second picture now that you went afterwards, or is?
Now, this is the second set of pictures when I went back with both police officers. Some of the debris had been, appeared to be have been removed.
I think it was just moved around. Sweeper's still in the same place. Shot back.
At this point, he asked me how they were doing, and I basically told him, I said, well, you had 10 days from your notice to correct the problems. I said it's been about 12 to 13 days before I actually came back and did the re-inspect, so we actually had a couple extra days. I told him at that point, I said, well, I would take the pictures, I would review them, and if need be, I would discuss the property with the law director. At this point, I didn't really feel that there was any more need to discuss it. At that point, I was informed that to hold up on the moving it forward to the law director step at this time because they had appealed for hearing, and that was what we did at this point. So it's actually ready to go to law director step for court action, but it's on hold at this point.
Could you classify that as a salvage yard then, Rob?
It could be. Salvage yards are governed by the state, and
Okay.
the state prosecutes those. For our purposes, it's just obviously the property maintenance violations with the junk and trash and rubbish, and we would proceed. If this board upholds the notice of violations, then we'll proceed with criminal charges.
As you notice, the second time around, when I did take some pictures, as I indicated to you earlier, he indicated about throwing some fences up and things so that it would be none of my business to see what was there. And that's kind of what they did a little bit in the back, where the tires and some other debris were at. They literally closed it in to make it more difficult to see what's going on.
Better wear your vest the next time you go. Might not make it out. You might be just in one of those, you know.
So that's where we are at on the 406.
Covering it up with a fence does not justify it.
No.
In
No.
my mind, so.
No, it doesn't. I mean, I don't see how you're gonna cover any of that stuff up with a fence, you know?
It just makes it more difficult for the inspector to try and see what the problems are. Since all my pictures are taken from the public right-of-ways, such as your streets, sidewalks, alleys, things of that nature, I can gain authority to go on, say, a neighbor's property if they sign the consent form, which was approved a few years ago back. So that is how we do make access on certain properties if we're unable to see the problem.
You need to get a drone.
Yeah.
I don't know, that would be a legal question for Rob.
Can you get a drone?
You could.
There you go.
We could.
As long as you're operating it over the public right-of-way, right? Or neighbor's property if you have permission.
Might save you from getting shot.
Do you want me to proceed on then to 507?
Yeah, we might as well since we're here. I don't know what he needs that lawnmower for. I don't have a yard there he can mow. It's full of junk.
They'll cut it up, so.
Yeah.
507, I had been, received several complaints on several properties in the area. 507, 511, which is a vacant lot, and then 513, which is a property that's owned by a lady in Kentucky. It appears in my conversation with the lady for 513, I believe her husband is now deceased. She made contact with me in trying to locate a local mowing company to be able to take care of the property, which we were able to resolve. The same thing with 511. 511 is a vacant lot. They indicated to me that they received their notice and had mowed their property. The problem was they were not able to mow all their property because of 507, which apparently was leaving a lot of debris and stuff on their property or the edge of their property as well. So that's why we ended up with a inspection and investigation for 507 West Mary Street. As you can see here, this is part of the lot for 511, which was mowed, but you can see along the area here that there's part of it isn't mowed because it appears things are spilling over from 507. Again, a variety of items on the property.
Did you actually receive a complaint on this one? From someone in the area?
Yes, I received a complaint, and I'm trying to remember on this one. I think it came from from upstairs, from not from the mayor or safety service director, but from the administrative office upstairs. Basically, it indicated that there were 3 properties in the area that had a variety of grass, weeds, trash, and rubbish issues. And being that the other 2 were so noticeable with the grass weeds close to 2 feet in height, I just took it at that point that this was the 3rd property, since it also indicated trash, rubbish, and junk on the property. So I ended up writing all 3 of the properties up at the time.
So like you said, it looks like it's spilling over on the other property.
These are pictures that show the property down behind, that leads on down behind where there's no mowing taking place. And again, it appears to be some storage of different items in the back as well.
Well, so they've already been served with the notice of violation.
They received, 507 received the notice of violation. There was no communications with the property owner within the 10 days. Again, it was about 12 to 13 days before I did the re-inspect. I then went ahead and moved this one forward to the law director's step for court action. The second one, which was 406 West Warren, I was just in the process of moving that one forward to the law director's step when we received a small paper indicating that they were protesting. They were appealing the property. At that point, I talked to Mr. Ratliff. Mr. Ratliff advised me to go ahead and put the property on hold at this time until after the hearing.
The date on the one for 406 appears to be 6/27/21. And the date for the 507 appears to be 6/9/21.
Well, from what I see, I don't see any reason not to proceed with it. If they want to appeal it, that's their right.
Yeah, which they did. They have appealed it. That's why we're here.
Did you want to see the second set, just to show that there was not much progress, if any, as far
Except
as...
for the rest of the guys, I'm satisfied. Anybody else want to see the rest of the pictures, the second set for 507?
Yeah, let's look at them, since we got them.
Again, these are just pictures to show that there had been, in my opinion, no attempt to mow or try and correct any of the problems. The different items were still about in the same places that they were.
I'm not sure what are they trying,
Now,
I'm not sure.
this
what
is a
they're trying to do.
situation where the second time around when I took the pictures, and the individual that owned the vacant lot at 511 indicated that it was spilling over to his property. This pickup truck is actually sitting about the whole length of the truck over onto their property when I went out and did the re-inspect.
Was the dump truck that's sitting on the vacant lot, was it there when you did the, oh, there it is, yeah, okay.
Yeah, the dump truck was there, but
Actually,
it didn't appear like anything had been done. But this one had, when I went back past it a couple days later just visually take a look at it, I believe that the pickup, or the dump truck was still sitting there and nothing was done at this point. So
Well, a
it had
couple
been
days-
about 14, 15 days since the notice was issued
Have tags
for a
on?
10-day notice.
A couple days ago, that dump truck was sitting on the vacant lot when I was by there
Okay.
to view it. That's what I wanted to do.
Do all these vehicles got tags on them?
It's getting difficult to determine that, because unless you can see the back license plate on vehicles now, since Ohio has eliminated the front license plate, it's making it more difficult to determine that. and your property owners realize it as well. They know that they want to hide something from you, just make sure you can't see the back of it. I had some conversations with the police department as well on that, and it's definitely making it a little bit more difficult for all of us.
Yeah, because there is an ordinance out for junk vehicles.
Right.
You don't have.
So what I try to look for as much as anything is if grass and weeds have grown way up around it, to me, that's an appearance if it's inoperable. I also look to see if there are parts or anything missing off of it as well, just to determine if it's inoperable. So even though it may be licensed, if it's still inoperable, that's how I'm trying to correct the problems.
Well, it's unfortunate that this falls on to the property owner and not the tenant of the property. But that may change in a new property maintenance code, possibly.
Well, I mean, we can pursue either or, but we don't always have the identity of the tenant. I mean, we can pursue the owner, or we can pursue the tenant.
But isn't it up to the owner to make them clean the property up? They own the property.
Ultimately, the owner does have
Yeah.
final responsibility, so.
Yeah, it would be their option if they wanted to. Apparently, they don't want to.
Right, I guess,
Yeah, as Rob indicated, that's the toughest thing, is because so many times if it's a rental property, I have no idea who I'm dealing with or what I might get into when I get there. I could be dealing with an ex-convict, I mean, I could be dealing with the unknowns. And so that's why we make sure we take all of our pictures from public right-of-ways when all possible.
Right.
Well, I'd say it should be a joint effort, but it's really up to the property owner to see this maintained in a respectable fashion.
Exactly. Well, any more comments from the board members?
No, I'd say we'll
Recommendation
proceed and
motion?
let the chips fall where they may.
We can do that, just you need a motion to uphold the violations on two properties, that's it.
Well, I'll make the motion.
I'll second
Motion by Floyd Farmer to uphold the violations, notice of violation, and seconded by Mr. Bors. All, roll call vote.
Mr. Stuckert,
Yes.
Mr. Bors,
it. Yes.
Mr. Farmer,
Yes.
Mr. Schiffer.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay.
Good.
Any other discussion?
Did you talk to any of these guys at 507 West Mary?
No,
Thank you, Rob.
I had to think about that, because I couldn't remember if anybody maybe came out the first time, but I don't believe anybody did come out around either time that I was there. The 406 was just the opposite.
Yeah, they were making sure that you saw them and heard them, right?
Yes.
Well, okay, let's see what happens.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Schiffer. Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Farmer. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Meeting,
carried.
motion, or meeting adjourned at 4:34.
Thank you.